Everyone, we're about to start. I'm just going to wait for Zoom to come on over, and then we're going to rock and roll. And this is a great webcast tonight. We're talking all about athletes and how to feed athletes. Okay, I think we're good. Let me adjust the volume on my Facebook so I don't get the feedback. Right here. Okay. So hello, everyone. Thanks for always, there's a bit of a delay when I have to switch over from Zoom to Facebook, but it allows me to share the visuals. And this is a webcast that I am so excited for. I've talked about athletes live in Zen Project 8, and we've done like bits and pieces. We had it in the FAQ. And over the weekend, I had some friends of us were staying with us, and they have some kid athletes. And, I've written a kid athlete book. I have a kid athlete series. What made me think about it is, man, with Zen, we have so many athletes rocking this, and I need to do a better webcast that everyone can share with every single athlete. Because it's one thing to say, hey, Zen Fuse is amazing and Zen Fit, and you need to do this. But I actually wanted to go through we're doing an experience. So it's going to be, it won't be short tonight. It's going to be about 30 minutes. And then we'll do Q&A. And then obviously we have our Shared and Build It webcast that I lead with Renita Robranda at 10 p.m. on the same page. Tonight is going to be something where I feel like any athlete that wants to really learn why Zen is for them, how it's going to set them up to win, what's it going to do to make them take their performance to the next level. I want you to feel like as you're watching this, you're sitting in my office back in 1999 when I was in Venice Beach, California, and I've worked with all the top athletes in the world and many, many professional teams. And there's 5 steps that you kind of take the existing Zen Project 8 program, and I'm going to walk you through that. So this is something that if you're sharing or you're living ZP8 and you're saying, hey, maybe I want to get into my athlete, maybe I'll get my athlete groove on. Maybe I'm an amateur or recreational athlete, or maybe I have a friend. This is something for you. Now, before I dive in, I want to just go over to my iPad right here, because you guys know I'm watching. This is our time together. It's our Monday Mania. So I just want to make sure that it's streaming well. It is right here. We got people on. We got Jerry Ziffer. So as you do any comments, I'll be looking and hey, Sherry McCants, Michelle Herdeth, Kayla, what's up? Gail Peterson, Mary V. Nelson, of course, Lisa Walsh. Lisa, man, your name comes up a lot, Lisa. We got to connect. So just remember, as you have questions, Kathleen Paris just jumped on. As you have questions, feel free. But I'm really excited about tonight because it's just going to allow you to really understand. Now, before this, if you're an athlete, you're saying, okay, so Mark, part of Zen, we have this massive global community, but why should I listen to this? Why, as an athlete, why should I do this? Well, let me show you. I'm the nutritionist for the tennis channel. I have a lot of partnerships, but the tennis channel came to me, and I write weekly articles, and I do numerous videos. My blog that's going to come out is going to start being on tennis.com, which is the #1 tennis site in the world, which is owned by Tennis Channel. They all own all of those sites. But we did a 5-part series, and I'm just going to share my screen here with you. So you can just Google Tennis Channel Mark McDonald. You're saying, okay, what it is. So I'm going to talk about the things we did, because Tennis Channel wanted me to write something that how can a tennis player, whether they're an amateur, so many recreational tennis players of all ages, or they're an amateur, or they're a collegiate player, or they're professional, what do they need to know? So there's a 5-part series that I wrote, and I just want to show you. Eating like a tennis champion, the myth of carb loading, optimally fueling before your match, maximizing recovery. And then Zen Fuse is featured in winning in the final set. So I'm not going to go through this. I just want to kind of share with you that when a lot of times when someone says, oh, an athlete should do this, or a kid athlete should do that. As I shared, I had friends staying with us, dear friends, family of ours. They're not blood-related family, but they're family. And they have 2 girls who are dancers. And the dance teachers are telling these girls to not eat. I'm looking at these amazing girls that, I think of my little baby girl, Hope, who's 2 years old. And imagine if I'm not her dad, and she loves dance, and she goes into dance, and she's 7, 8, 9, 10. And then all of a sudden she starts losing weight, and she's not eating. And it's because a teacher or a coach, because of what they don't know about nutrition, is telling them that they should not eat. They should only eat a couple times a day. I've worked with world-class Olympic gold medalist gymnasts. And some of the gymnastics, some of the female gymnasts have been told to barely drink water, to eat 3 meals a day, maximum, starve yourself. So I don't have to keep going. Wrestlers, boxers, when we think about these things, these are all things that end up happening because of a lack of information for athletes. Now, we take to talk high level. You know, my son Hunter plays soccer. It's his dream. And that's why you see, I don't know if anyone's a Man U fan, but I'm sporting my athlete. My favorite two sports are, of course, soccer. You got my little soccer ball right here. Let me get off the share screen. But I got my Man U, my Chester United for athlete. I got my little USA soccer ball. And then I have my tennis racket, my two favorite sports right there. But today's all about making sure that we're educated, that whether maybe you're a marathon runner, maybe you're a triathlete, maybe you just run for fun, maybe you're a recreational tennis player, maybe you just like to play basketball on the weekends with your friends, maybe you have a dream to play collegiate basketball if you're a teenager, or maybe you're, I still play semi-pro soccer. So maybe you're a 45-year-old man or lady and you're still competitive. Or maybe you're just someone who just started taking care of their health and, hey, maybe I want to play sport. Well, let's dive into it. And the message today for everybody as I go through, I'm going to share the 5 steps, like you're sitting right across from me, is to first realize that the information I'm sharing with you is the base of physiology. It's not 1980 information. You know, it is realistic, groundbreaking, scientific data that how your body's meant to be working, how it's meant to be fed. All of the myths that you heard in the 80s and the 90s from coaches that they were taught from their coaches and their parents. It's all stuff that's just going to fail you long-term because none of it's scientifically backed. What I want to share with you is just how your body works. And then as an athlete, what minor adjustments you can make with the program to win. Okay, are we ready, everybody? I think everyone's good on this. Perfect. Okay, Samson Lee. Everyone, Samson Lee, one of my dearest friends. I love you, Samson Lee. Amazing leader, amazing man. So I'm giving you massive hugs, my friend. Okay, so let's first start. I want to first just look at the step 1 is really understanding just the basic physiology of your body and what PFC every 3 means. Because before we can go into the adjustments as an athlete, you have to understand the foundation of how your body's meant to be fed. So as I share my screen, this is a blood sugar graphic. And if you're on these webcasts, if you're driving a ZPA, you've seen this before. It's very simple. A baby feeds every 3 hours. They have a balance of protein, fat, carbohydrates. They stop eating when they're satisfied. They're eating when they're hungry. Your body's fuel source, all of our body's fuel source is ATP. Just keep telling yourself ATP. Adenose triphosphate runs my body like gas runs a car. And every time you skip a meal, your blood sugar drops and your body burns muscle. And every time you overeat, your body stores fat. So the whole concept of Zen Project Date, the entire program as an athlete, the foundation of the program is designed for you because every single human being that's breathing needs to feed their body this way. Every baby that's born in the past, in the present, and in the future, until we see something different, this is the basic physiology of the body. There's a feeding mechanism and there's an energy source. And balancing your blood sugar is how your body survives and creates energy. Now, there's 2 options you have. You can balance your blood sugar with the choices you make, and you control how your body reacts and how your metabolism feeds and how you perform in your sport, or you don't, and your body will do it for you. And every time your body has to step in, there's a cost to it. So let me give you another cool visual before we go into the second step, because the first step is just understanding the basics of PFC every 3. So let me go right here. I want to share another little visual with you. And this kind of gives you, I'm going to show one of the guides, but this will give you a good understanding. Let me just pull it up. Right here shows a very good just PFC every 3 visual. You think about that plate. So if you just look at your plate, when we were this weekend, as I was talking to the mother, Lisa, I'll just give their names. They're my buddies. Lisa, Lauren, and Candace, as we were sitting there, I said, look, you pull up your plate. You take the favorite proteins you like, the favorite fats you like, the favorite carbs you like, you balance it out. And then we have a more detailed plan where you can look at your portion sizes. But it's as simple as this, realizing that I must feed my body every 3 hours a balance of protein, fat, and carbohydrates because that's how my body creates fuel, ATP. And then I just need to have my protein because protein affects the blood sugar hormone glucagon, which raises your blood sugar. Carbs affect insulin. Fat slows down digestion. Those are the 3 nutrients in the world that your body will utilize, essential nutrients that your body can utilize for energy. There are no other essential nutrients. There are no nutrients that your body will utilize. And your entire purpose, I did a powerful webcast last week on how your digestive system works. I'm not going to talk about that tonight, but watch the replay from last week to truly understand it. But as an athlete, we're all the same. So we first have to say, okay, this is how everyone needs to feed now. So step 1 is blood sugar. But step 2 then is, why is blood sugar so important for me as an athlete? Because even though we all need to balance our blood sugar, when we talk about performance in a sport, it's even more important as an athlete. And I'm going to try to not get too scientific, but what I do want to share is I want to cut through the hype and cut through the myths and really drive the science on why this matters. So I'm going to share this other one about how your body stores. On the tennis channel, I wrote a blog called The Myth of Carb Loading. And I'll show you that again before this is over. But basically, I'm going to walk you through why that's a myth. The concept is this, and I remember back in the 80s, I'd have a coach, and I was playing high competitive soccer, and they'd say, I love everyone jumping on, ask all questions too. I had a coach, and he'd say, hey, Mark, you should eat a big bowl of pasta or a big pizza before the night before a game. It will give you fuel. Have we ever heard the idea of beer and pizza the night before a game will give you all those carbs? So then all that glucose goes in your muscles, and then your body will, as you get tired, your body will just use all that stored sugar for fuel. Well, the problem is as science evolved, we realized that's a complete myth. Now, when I launched the blog on the tennis channel, you had some old school people say, oh no, well, work for this athlete or work for that athlete. I'm not saying there are amazing genetic people. I remember working, because I work with probably about 5 of the top 20 NFL combine guys every single year, because we're partnered with agents. And when we work with it, I remember this one athlete came in. It was probably the leanest athlete I've ever seen. Plays professional football right now, top player in the NFL. And he was eating 1 meal a day, and he was shredded to the bone, meaning he had no body fat, super muscular. We fed him, we got him, he gained about 15 pounds in 2 weeks for the combine. But my point is genetics play a factor in everything. So anyone who's a top level professional athlete and anyone who's at a high level, they're going to be great because of just their natural genetic ability. But imagine if we unlock that potential with food. And imagine if you're an amateur or recreational, or you just want to run your first 5K, if you can fuel yourself, how much better you're going to be. See, that's what I realized as an athlete growing up. I was never going to be the fastest. I was never going to be the strongest. I was never going to be the quickest. But what I would do is I would outwork people and outstudy people. And I would take my natural abilities and I'd learn how I can be great at anything that I did. And food was a huge part of that. So here's how we go. This is your body. You have all your muscles. So feel all your muscle. That's your skeletal muscle. Now, the old philosophy is that all that muscle could store glycogen. This is the problem. Your liver stores about 100 to 120 grams of sugar. Each gram of glucose is 4 calories. Now, let's say you go to bed on a fed state, and throughout the night, you're fasting for any 6 to 8 hours as you sleep. You're probably using half of that. You wake up, you might have 200 calories worth of fuel. The concept of, exercise on an empty stomach, that's the problem. You'll burn that all up. And what happens when you run out of glucose? Your body can't convert fat fast enough to feed the brain the sugar it needs from ATP. It starts burning your muscle because your muscle lacks something called glucose 6-phosphate. If you just look at your screen, because that muscle, the stored glycogen in your muscle lacks that, it cannot be broken down into blood sugar. So the point I'm making is this: your body, scientifically 100% physiologically proven, is a refuel as it goes machine. It has a minimal amount of stored glucose. And then when you run out of glycogen, if your leg runs out of glycogen, your arm can't be broken down to feed that leg. That's why you'll get cramps. That's why your body will hit fatigue. That's why you won't be able to push anymore, because you did not refuel. So the biggest thing as an athlete is the myth of carb loading will only hurt you. And let me show you why. Hope everyone's, I love this. I love Mary Nelson, Vice is Golden. I love that. I know we're going scientific, but for as an athlete, it's worth the time. If someone really wants to learn, we got to talk about it. So let me show you 2 more graphics. So once we understand you got to balance your blood sugar And then we have to look at that. We have to make sure that we're set up to win on that. Our body can only do about 400 to 420 calories, max maybe 480 in a full fed state. This is what we know, that carb loading meal now doesn't get stored as all that muscle glycogen as we thought. Your body can only metabolize a certain amount of food each sitting. This is why you have to refuel. This is why when someone wants to gain weight and their thought process, how many people, I mean, I've worked with thousands upon thousands of people who want to gain weight, and athletes in particular. They seem to burn a lot of energy. They want to gain weight. And their thought process is, okay, I'll just eat 5,000 calories a day and I'll do it in one sitting or two sittings. Body doesn't work like that. Your body can only process a certain amount in each sitting. So when you carb load, if you don't have that super fast metabolism, what happens? Bloodstream, you drop that excess carbs and sugars goes into the bloodstream, you get stored as fat. So all that stuff gets processed by your liver, it goes into the bloodstream, you form triglycerides, and then you end up storing body fat. Blood sugar spikes, excess glucose in the blood, fat is stored. So carb loading will only work against you. Now, what happens on the next part when you run out of fuel as an athlete? I got another visual for you. Pull that up. So when your blood sugar crashes, once again, remember, your body, the only thing that's great at storing for protection is fat, because every gram of store, like fat has 9 calories per gram, where carbs and protein have 4. So your body it can't convert fat fast enough to feed the brain the sugar it needs. Now, some people, if they go on a high fat diet and they take out the carbs, that's a whole different story. That's another webcast. That is not something that's going to work for your advantage. Definitely not for anyone, but especially an athlete. But the reality is this: your body can't convert that fat fast enough. So your amino acids start being broken down. What are amino acids? Your building blocks for protein. Protein, and your protein is the most essential nutrient because it's the only nutrient that has nitrogen. And nitrogen, when you have more nitrogen coming in your body, you're anabolic. When you have less, you're catabolic. So when your blood sugar crashes, your body is burning muscle. So the 2 first steps are probably the most important as an athlete. The first understanding is this: all that hype, all that BS you've heard in the past, the reality is that you need to balance your blood sugar. Period. Science is 100% root of physiology. We know that. Now, what we teach with Zen Project Days, we do through PFC everything. And that's what, in all our experience and research, that's what we've seen is the best. The small frequent meals every 3 hours, feed the body, refuel as it goes machine. Step 2, realize carb loading's a myth, and now you know exactly why. You know that your body, whether it's carb loading or you're in a sport, because when I talk about what you do during competition, you have to keep realizing, wait a second, my body runs out of fuel very fast. And when it runs out of fuel, what happens? You burn muscle. And how many times after a sport or after a run, you felt like, man, I am famished when you cool down, because when you're hot, the heat will suppress your appetite. You cool down, I got to eat. What do you eat? What do you want? Protein? No, you want the carbohydrates. I remember this weekend was a perfect example. The dancer who's been not eating, what does she do? Going for a Snickers bar because she's starving. So we start then wanting it. I remember playing soccer and I'd go 6 hours without food. What did I do? I'm reaching for in the cafeteria in school and college, I'm reaching for the hamburgers and the French fries and the pizza. I'm studying nutrition, but I didn't understand nutrition at that point. But that's my message I'm sharing with you. It's understanding the first 2 steps. First, PFC every 3, why you need to balance your blood sugar, and that your body can't utilize glucose well. Now, once you get that and you understand those 2 steps, we're going to talk about the next 3. Now, I want to talk about pre-competition fuel, post-competition fuel for recovery, and then in-competition fuel. So these are the 5 things. When I go back, and everyone just jumped on, I want to just share with you, remember I showed this. I'm the nutritionist, one of the featured nutrition for the tennis channel. Every week I write a blog. And then we're starting to launch this week on tennis.com. But this is the whole series we did. You can Google it, Mar McDonald Tennis Channel, Eat Like a Tennis Champion. And then if you watch this, everything is all connected. There's 5. The Eat Like a Tennis Champion, which talks about PFC every 3, the myth of carb loading, optimally fueling before your match, maximize your recovery, winning the final set. Now, I know this is designed for tennis, but the information here is for every single athlete. Now, I'm not promoting this. I'm not talking about this, but the information here, and I like third-party credibility, because when you have the #1 tennis site with tennis.com that we're featured on in the world featuring this information, what does that tell you? When you have articles, when you have Zen Fuse being featured, what does that tell you? It tells you that the information is accurate, it's active, and it's relevant to athletes. Okay, so the first 2 steps to recap is PFC every 3 and realize that your body can't store glucose well. We broke that myth. Carb loading is out. If you just joined me, make sure you watch. Just rewind the replay. Now let's talk about the third thing on how to fuel before. So everyone, the Ignite phase, this is a little thing, and you can download it in the group. This is the program, and we have a little food list here. And let me go to, I'm going to show you the visual here. One sec. I think this is page, if you have the hard copy, it's going to be page 9. If not, go in the Facebook group, go in the files, and you can simply download this in your language. We have so many language, or in your country. Like Australia is still English, but it's different. But right here, when we talk about pre-competition, there's 3 phases: detox, ignite, and thrive. Kids, a lot of times, like Hunter, he can do thrive. I still think even with a kid, pre-competition should be super clean. This is what you got to think about. The webcast I did last week was about your digestive system. The more salt you have in food, the more difficult to digest proteins and carbohydrates that you put in meals. It's very hard in your digestive system. And I want you to think about your digestive system right now. When you eat, what happens? Your blood has to go to your digestive system to help break down the food. Well, if you're playing a sport and it's hard to break down that food, then your muscles that you need for the sport aren't getting enough blood, or as much blood as they could. So a couple rules is this: you should be eating 60 to 90 minutes, a balance of protein, fat, carbohydrates, pre-competition. So 60 to 90 minutes. Now, there's going to be in competition fuel, but you want to do enough when you feel like you have a sensitive digestive system. Maybe it's 90 minutes. You want to choose, I love the Ignite phase because it's truly the cleanest foods with some calorie-dense carbs and grains. Because if you're just having fruits and veggies, having some rice or having some beans or some quinoa before 90 minutes before a meal, that fuel, that complex carbohydrate can help sustain you more. Now, it doesn't mean you can't just have fruit and veggies, but you have to experiment with this as an athlete. But basically, you get a super clean. Now, I like leaner protein, I don't like, for my pre-competition, I'm not a huge fan of the proteins that have a lot of saturated fat. Now, I'm not against saturated fat, but the beef, so when you look here, the eggs with the yolk, salmon's probably the only exception because it's not saturated fat, but the lambs, the porks, I would not recommend that pre-competition. Saturated fat and those types of beefs and meats are super more difficult for your body to break down. It takes a lot for your body to break down whole protein. Now, I don't think you shouldn't have a shake before because that goes through too fast. So whole food meal, but choose the leanest proteins, fats, and carbs that you feel like, okay, I can eat. And then 60 minutes later, I feel good. That's what you're thinking about now as an athlete. So you have to look at the list and experiment with it. You should not be doing this before your first big match or your first big game. You should be doing this before your training. So if you're a runner, start experimenting a little bit. Many runners run in the morning and say, I'm not eating this. Okay, have a shake in the morning then. That might be the only exception. But if you're doing a big marathon, you want to fuel your body because what you've learned already is your body's a refuels glucose machine. So step 3 from the pre-competition is 60 to 90 minutes before. You want to drink at least 1 to 2 liters of water, and then you really want to find the foods that work great for you on this. Now, let me talk portion sizes in pre and post competition. So this is our normal portion sizes. For athletes, and you got to experiment. Once again, this depends on you. But for high-level athletes, females typically do 1.5 pounds of protein. Males might do 2 to 2.5 pounds. Fat, it's more a handful of fat. So I don't want you to get stuck on that whole thumb aspect. We're not looking at calorie deprivation here. So it's a start. Like thumbs are more your oils, maybe avocado, but you can be a little free on that. Just look at your plate, see how you're feeling satisfied. Carbohydrates, 1 to 2 fists for females, maybe 2 to 3 for males. You have to go on how your body. Now, that doesn't mean every meal you're doing that. but your pre-competition and your post-competition, what we don't want to happen is that you're starving afterwards. If you're starving after your sport, after your game, you messed up somewhere. And you got to go back and say, what did I do? What could I have done differently? What could I have done better so that I'm not starving? Because we never want you starving and we never want you full. So play with your portion sizes. Find the protein, fats, and carbs that work best for you. Now, I have an athlete ebook. One of the for a kid athlete. When I did this, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you 4 meals from it. And then I'm going to show some recipes on the post from the ZP8 group. But right here, and these are probably 4 meals that that a lot of people will like. So from a breakfast perspective, egg whites, avocado with some gluten-free bread, tomatoes, and cucumber. Like that could be, you have your complex carbohydrate with the gluten-free bread. You got your simple carbs with the cucumber and the tomatoes. You got a nice source of fat with the avocado, and then you have the egg white. So it's all super clean fats, clean carbohydrates. The gluten causes inflammation in a lot of people. And once again, inflammation affects how your body works for you in your sport. Veggie omelet with some fruit and some oatmeal. So I like mixing it a little bit. You can be a little bit more free with the carbs if you feel like you're going to use a lot of fuel, not over carb, of course, but how your body's used, how your metabolism's running. And then I like a simple carb and a little bit of complex carb. That's what I like before I compete, but you got to play with it yourself. And then here are 2 other ones. This is like a turkey avocado gluten-free wrap with some fruit and carb. So I like that. The turkey's the protein. You're going to have the simple sugar with the pineapple, the tomato and the lettuce, and then you're going to have the gluten-free wrap. And then chicken, olive oil, brown rice, and veggies. So stuff like that is super simple, and that sets you up to win. So these are just real life examples. And we have recipes of this in the Zen, and I'm going to show you. We didn't have all of these in there, so I wanted to show this to you. But in the ZP8 group, I'm going to show you exactly what you can do. But as an athlete, you just go to your Ignite phase right here. Go to this little document that I showed, download it, look at that. You now get an understanding how you can do it. Okay, so let's just recap before I cover the last 2 steps. So let me sure. I love that. Okay, good. Yeah, I know there's a lot of information here, everybody, but it's worth it. Every athlete should see this. So quickly, 3-step recap. Number 1, got blood sugar. We understand that. Everyone's got to eat PFC, everything. Number 2, your body doesn't store glucose well. We just exploded the myth of carb loading. Doesn't exist. We obliterated it. Number 3, pre-competition meal. You have the rules now. Now we look at post-competition meals. Now from a post-competition meal, pretty similar to a pre-competition meal. Same food list. I would Ignite. I would avoid the Thrive. You can bring the Thrive in if you want, but I would still keep it clean because you want recovery. I think eating the beefs and the saturated fat proteins totally fine on the post-competition because you can get that iron. A lot of it, like a beef in particular, like a lean beef will be great after. It just depends on what's going on the next, how quickly you have to recover, but play with that once again. Follow the Ignite phase. Eat within an hour after the competition. Ideally, the sooner the better. And then when we look at some recipes, we go to our Facebook group, the Facebook group we all love. So let me go to it. Where is, okay, it's right here. Right here. So in the Facebook group, so facebook.com/group/Zen Project 8 under the Ignite phase recipes. Like I love this filet brown rice asparagus medley. This is an amazing post-competition meal. So you're getting some awesome source of protein with the filet. You're getting some good complex carbohydrate with the brown rice, and then you get a simple one with the asparagus. Another good one that I like is a lettuce wrapped turkey burger on a sweet potato bun. Sweet potato bun is a great complex carbohydrate. You're going to have you have some avocado on that. You have the turkey burger, which would be a little bit of protein and fat. And then you could have some salsa, some tomatoes. You can bring in a little bit more. You could even bring in a little fruit on the side of that. So these are great post-competition meal examples. And you can go through all of them. You can go through the Thrive phase. The pork one would be the chicken nachos over homemade sweet potato chips is another great one. So these are just good recipes, good clean food that gives you enough fuel to replenish. Now, before I go to the last part, step 5, so make sure everyone, I hope everyone gets this. Yeah, and all questions I'll get to right after. So Anastasia, just hold tight. I'll answer that one about the salt cravings. But those are the 4 steps. So you have PFC, myth of carb loading, pre-competition, post-competition. And you look at those as your bookends as an athlete. Take the food, test it out, eat super clean, avoid the inflammation because you want to make sure it's clean from that perspective. Now, product-wise, and when we talk about in competition, I'm going to bring up ZenFuse. But the 2 products that I love, depends on it. If you want to burn fat, I would take Zen Shape before your activity. It's because you're already going to be releasing adrenaline. You're already going to be burning it. So I would take 2 capsules of Zen Shape before your workout or before your training, and that will help you mobilize body fats. I would also, ZenFit to me, and I want to be very clear on this. This product, ZenFit, I love. Amino acids make up your body. That's your protein. And you have non-essential and essential amino acids. ZenFit is an essential amino acid complex. I just had an amazing conversation with one of my dearest friends, Kevin Lawrence, who's the greatest creator of Power Crunch, one of the greatest protein minds in the world. Help share insight as we, to me, created ZenFuse, the greatest protein shake in the world when we talk about from PFC and the unique protein blend. But as Kevin and I were talking, we talked about the importance of the essential amino acids and why plant-based protein has many challenges with the quantity of it. And that's in future webcasts I'm going to be doing about kind of exposing plant-based proteins and where the challenges lie within them. Not against them, but educating you of the challenges on them. But right here, ZenFit has all the essential amino acids. So your body can utilize it immediately and combine with the non-essential to make protein. So you should be taking this 30 minutes before a workout. And then I like this right after a workout. So I would bookend it. Just like you do your pre and post competition, you bookend it. These products helps mobilize fat, balance your leptin hormone. These help your body recover, protect and restore your lean body mass, helps your performance to the next level. And these, when you talk about the essential amino acids as the bookends for your pre and post, it just helps maximize and turbocharge your results. Now, the last step before we go to Q&A is we talk about in competition eating. And in competition eating, there's going to be 2 things that I'll talk about. And just once again, I'll go to the Tennis Channel blog. Right here, if I go to winning the final set right here, you see Roger Federer right there. But this is right here, ZenFuse. This gives you kind of a litmus test, and ZenFuse protein shake is what was the #1 recommended that I recommend, obviously, and I'm going to explain why with that. But there's 2 things you got to look at within competition fuel. #1, your body is a refuel as it goes machine. So how are you feeding it throughout? The old philosophy was this. You're running a marathon, you get tired, you drink a Gatorade. You take a glucose supplement. Well, we already know that what's that going to do? It's going to enter your bloodstream. It's going to crash you and burn you. It's that simple. Up, down. That's what happens when you take in pure glucose. So the researchers now show why you got to ask, why is Gatorade adding protein to their drinks? Why is every performance drink starting to have protein? Because we know that protein, complete protein, helps balance the glucagon hormone, carbs, insulin, fat, slows down digestion. So we made ZenFuse 21 grams of protein, 14 carbs, 3 grams of fat, along with the 5 grams of fiber and the slow and fast acting protein. So the fast acting, the whey protein feeds your muscle fast, and the slow acting helps keep your blood sugar balanced. But because it's from the micellar casing, as it's broken down from a cellular level, it doesn't tax your digestive system. In addition, it's liquid. So when I take in a piece of chicken breast, there's a lot of work my digestive system has to do to break that down. If it's already liquefied and it's already starting to be absorbed by the body, it doesn't take that toll. So the amount of blood pumped into your stomach is nothing like whole food. So very simply, as I'm playing soccer, or I'm on the tennis court, I'm putting ZenFuse in here with some ice, and I'm sipping on it throughout my match or through my competition. Runners, triathletes, when I cycle, cycling is my 3rd favorite sport. Besides indoor trampoline, dodgeball, sky, so that might be one many times. But I put cycling. What do? I take my cycling water bottle, I put that mix in, and I set it up. Now, that's before ZenFuse was created. I would have to find a protein, I'd have to find a carb solution, and I'd have to put olive oil. That's what I used to do. I'd take a good quality protein, I would take something called Cytomax, and then I would take olive oil, and I would have to mix that. ZenFuse, why we made protein with the difference, solved that. So this becomes your go-to in competition fuel. It also is fantastic if you don't want to eat whole food before. If you're training in the morning, you feel like whole food doesn't sit well with me. It's great for pre as well. Now, the last thing you got to look at is you got to look at fuel of protein, fat, carbs, then fuse solution for that, and then electrolytes. Vitamin water zero. I don't like all the sugar, so it's got to be a low sugar or no sugars drink. This has sucralose, so not great. I know Renita Brandon would not like that do that, but I drink this a lot. But many times what I do is I take electrolyte tablets. Hunter will drink vitamin water because he's not going to take the tablets, but I'll get electrolyte tablets. Electrolytes are this. You have sodium, potassium, and those are your two main ones, and they really control your pump, how your body controls water. And sodium's like the salt. And when you sweat everything out and you have an imbalance, cramp starts happening, you don't perform as well. So in hot, humid environments, you always have to look at what's my in-fuel competition and what is my electrolyte replacement. What I promise you is this: whatever sport you're in, if you implement these 5 steps and you just don't do it tomorrow, you watch this webcast, you create a plan, you get clear on your food, you test it. But if you can implement these strategies over the next couple of weeks and you really test them out, I promise you that by the time that you're competing, because with the difference between athletes at all levels, whether they're recreational, amateur, collegiate, or professional, the difference is not skill many times. It's the mental alertness, and it's who can be the strongest at the end of a match, who can be the strongest at the end of the game. In the NFL, who's the best in the fourth quarter? In tennis, who's the best in the third or fifth set? In soccer, who's the best in the second half in the last 5-10 minutes? Who's going to rise to the occasion? Whatever sport you play. In basketball, who's the best in the fourth quarter? If you watch any sport events, you see a lot of times people are equal, but who has that competitive advantage? And your fuel will provide you that competitive advantage. Just ask yourself, why does every top professional sporting team, and I worked with many of these teams, have a nutritionist on staff? Because your food is the difference maker, one of the greatest difference makers in your ability. And it's one of the things where you can beat your competition that might have a little bit more talent than you, but you'll be a little smarter with how you feed yourself. Okay. Sorry I know it's long, but hopefully this is a webcast that really educated you on, as an athlete, what to do. My invitation is to everyone watching it. I love our community. ZP8, come on. Great to share with any athlete you know. If you're an athlete yourself, apply this. But I'm hoping you're starting to understand the reason why we made the Zen product line and why the entire foundation of Zen Project A is based upon blood sugar. Our program works for everybody. And then what we help with is just based upon the goals and objectives for each individual, we fine-tune a little adjustment. So these are the 5 steps that athletes do to live ZP8. They don't do a different program. They just make these minor adjustments. Okay. Ask all questions. We got about 5 minutes, but about 7 minutes. And then if you're sharing or building ZP8, remember we have our business coaching series going on. Got a great topic tonight, the 5-step, another 5-stepper. 5-step. I love the steps because it lets you think about it. But from a business perspective, the 5 steps and actually how to build your brand as a health expert. So got some good things for that and some good analogy. I think you'll dig that. That's at 10 o'clock, about 17 minutes, right on this page after. If you got to exit, no worries. Watch this replay. Please share with everyone on your team. I will also post this. I'll post this actual Facebook Live in the ZPA group tonight, but then I'll upload the recorded version so we have that reference in there as well. Mwah. Love our community. Let's go right to Q&A. Can you mention to the group when you take the electrolytes? So yeah. So in the electrolytes, you should be taking them during and after. So you have to watch. When are you, from an electrolyte perspective, if you're starting to perspire a lot, it's kind of like once you're hungry, you're in trouble. Once you're thirsty, you're in trouble. So you got to be drinking your water all throughout. That's the other thing I didn't say from a water perspective. You're typically 1 or 2 liters before, or at least a liter before, at least 1 or 2 liters after, based upon the perspiration and time of the year. Lisa says, how many ZenFit can you have in a day? I don't think there's a health challenge on how many you can have. I take 3 to 4 a day. So as long as you don't have any challenges from a stomach perspective, they're just amino acids, so you should be fine. And we have a lot of athletes who will take 4. So Mandy says, I have trouble taking the amino acids. I find them too sweet. I have even putting juice and lemon in it. You know, from a sweetness perspective, I don't know what hydrolyte is. You know, I think the difference with this is the ZenFit is an essential amino acid complex. Let me look what hydrolyte is. You could probably try more water in it. And if somehow you can't take it at all, and maybe someone else has ideas on how it can happen. But for me, I don't know how to make it less sweet. I mean, you can dilute it with more water. But if you feel you can find something equal to it, there's not a product equal to ZenFit right now because there's other BCAAs, but we didn't design a BCAA. We designed an essential amino acid complex. It's different because it allows your body to metabolize the protein immediately because you have so many non-essentials already in your body. Yeah, Michelle Knowles said add more water. That's what I would do. Ray Freeman, good stuff. Yeah, you know, as athletes need info. So if we just say, hey, this is great for you as an athlete, I mean, it is. Let's provide some data behind it. So, and someone who's serious about their sport, invest the 45 minutes to watch the webcast to really get an understanding of it. This is great. Jerry said on Sunday, I did a 45-mile bike ride. It was early in the AM, too early to eat a full meal. So I had 2 hard-boiled eggs plus a shake with added frozen fruit in it. Had all the energy I needed. Perfect. Yeah, and so Jerry's going 45 minutes, so there's no reason to fuel throughout. It's when you're going over that 45-minute, 60-minute, a 2-hour, like when I'm playing back-to-back soccer matches, I'm fueling. Tim Wilson. My brother. Love that you jumped on, man. Hey, Rhonda Baker. Hey, Liz Wise. Catherine LaFleur. Mwah. Oh, 45 miles. You probably should have 45 miles. You probably should have had something, Jerry. Just watch that. How long that take you? I would still sip on it. Yeah, so Ruth said, where should she find the recipes? So you need to go join the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/ZenProject8. So if I go back to the group, it's right here. You know, we have over 21,300 members, and you simply go to photos, and then you go to albums, and then the recipes are right there. And check those out. Yeah, Jared, for 2.5 hours, I would have fuel. I would sip on maybe like at least a scoop of Fuse just to, and you're in Florida too. So you may need some electrolytes on that too. Mark says, I'm a type 2 diabetic. Since starting in first 14 days, my morning test has dropped from an average of 9.8 to 7.5. It's been impossible to drop prior to starting Zen. Yeah, I love it, Mark. That's, you know, it's so interesting when you talk about blood sugar because we all need to balance our blood sugar, but diabetics, it's like when I work with type 1s. I mean, this is what back in 1999 when I started working with a lot of type 1 diabetics, you just would see they needed less insulin every day because they were balancing their blood sugar and you need less insulin. Type 1 can't produce insulin, so you need less, though, artificial insulin because you don't need to balance it so well. Like you don't have to lower it nonstop. Type 2s are the same. Just by eating the meals, you're not having these crazy swings and you're staying in this balance of it. And then you hear all these fads about intermittent fasting and ketogenic diets and all these craziness when the reality is that, you know, we can't try to change the physiology of our body. We just have to understand the physiology of our body and realize that making your nutrition work is not the easiest thing. It's a simple concept, but it takes work. And if you can get educated, then you win. I always laugh at, not like physically laugh at people, but Abby and I talk about it that, you know, when we're traveling or we're going to an amusement park and we spend about an hour and a half packing our stuff and being all prepared. And then people say, oh, I can't do that. But then I watch everyone scramble at these amusement parks looking for food and they're spending 3 to 4 hours on food and they're being controlled by their hunger, where we just invested the time ahead of time, probably half the amount of time that they spent when they're there, and we feel great all day. That's the difference of it. It's understanding what you get from it. You know, we got to go beyond the external and realize how we feel from it. And I love that, Mark. It's an awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I would just try diluting it more. I'll think of some ways. You know, maybe plugging your nose too. Ruth said, what if someone's on dialysis? So the kidneys are challenging. You need to talk to a doctor on that. The dialysis is your kidneys on processed protein. I would avoid that I would not give any advice on that. I would have to talk to a doctor, find out how much protein they can use. And then you go from there. Fuse would work, but always have, depending on why they're on dialysis, the challenges they have, make sure they talk to their doctor. Oh yeah, Sherry, I forget your son's a type 1. Phenomenal health pro Sherry McCants. We just rocked LA together up there in Washington. I had to fit my water during the day without exercise. Yeah, great question. So you keep thinking about you're breaking down muscle all the time. So fit is always going to work for you. It's just an amazing recovery tool as well. But yeah, whether you're training or not, you should still be taking your 2 fit. When you exercise, you'll take more. I'll take more fit during my exercise. Okay, guys, Jody Stevens. Jody just joined us. So unfortunately, Jody, we're going to wrap this up. We're at 9:52 in 8 minutes. If you are sharing or building ZP8, you should stay on this page. Renita and I will probably be 10 or 10:04. We'll be live somewhere within that 4-minute mark after 10 p.m. And we have a great one. We're building off this business building webcast. I'll share the other 2 webcasts. If you're just joining this one, I'll share where you can do your research. But this is something great. We're building upon taking you from living ZP8 to the steps to sharing ZP8, to building ZP8, to then building a brand. And once again, these are steps for everybody. You don't have to build a brand. You can just live, or you can just share. But what I believe in is sharing the vision, because myself as a health expert, I've built a pretty strong health pro brand. And I know almost every other health pro that's built a brand. So I can help share some. And when I talk about health pro, you don't have to be a health professional. I talk about a health brand, meaning that if you're sharing and building with Zen, it's because you've lived something, you've shared something, and now you're enhancing your skill set, and you're starting to build a health brand around what you've accomplished, and you're starting to build a community as well. Okay. Please share this with all athletes, live in the program, and any athlete who said, tell me more, share this with them. You can share right from this page. For everyone in the ZP8 group, make sure you join if you aren't part of that. I will upload this sometime tomorrow, so you have it for your reference in the video section. Love our community. We get stronger every day. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Bye.